One, it's Don from Crux Terminatus, and what am I going to call this video? No idea. How I built a church in a photo frame? Possibly. How I came third in a Games Workshop competition? Go me. My first attempt at a diorama? Possibly. Or how to turn scrap into a free model. All of these are completely valid. Let me tell you the story. So it's November in last year, and Games Workshop in Falkirk have a competition. They give you a 6x4 photo frame and they say build a diorama. As long as it's got something to do with Warhammer, you're in. Okay, no idea where to start, but I had an offcut of foam core that I've had for years sitting about gathering dust, and I've chunked bits out of it, as you can see, over time for different things. But I thought, hey, I'm going to try and make a church in a photo frame. That's bound to go down well, right? Well, okay, it was a great idea. How do we go about it? So the first thing I did was I cut the main back part to scale, and then I decided to cut out a sort of Gothic church window. At this point in time, I had no idea how I'd support it. I'd never done anything like this before, so I was just making it up as I went along. So that's my big message to you: is just try it and see if it works. So as you can see, I cut out some sides from more scrap. What I really wanted to do was make it look like, it was a demolished church or it had been damaged in fighting. So I cut out some sort of brick shapes, and then with a cocktail stick, I just poked in straight into the sponge rough stone shapes. And I thought, well, it might work. No idea. I've never tried it before, but I've seen people do something similar in other exercises before. And before long, in fact, within a couple of minutes, I had something that looked pretty decent. And it's all thanks to the real Mithril and Bidge, Squidgy Bidge, for giving me the confidence to try this. And I remembered from visiting churches and school trips and things that sometimes underneath the window they had like a better quality motif or something. So I did straight brickwork there and cobbled stone everywhere else. Once I had the basic brick shape, I decided that I would spray it with grey car primer and then dry brush it with a lighter grey just to try and make it look like stone. And I was quite surprised with the results. I was quite happy. So the main sort of focus point under the window, I decided to make that a sort of lighter grey so I could paint an aquila on it just to make it look a bit more church-like. I cut out an aquila and I painted black first and then moved it slightly to the left and painted gold over it. I wanted to give it a 3D effect. At this stage, I was actually still thinking this was going to be my draft attempt, but I was actually liking how it was coming along, so yeah, I decided to roll with it. Next up was the floor that sat within the actual 6x4 photo frame. So I just did a grid pattern and then tried to make it look like some of the flagstones were cracked. And again, I did the same thing with painting and highlighting. And before long, I actually had a pretty decent looking, or in my opinion, pretty decent looking thing. And then I made a little clock tower thing as well, just to put some bullet holes in that, just to give it a sort of rough and ready look. But so far, so good. But what a church really needs is a big stained glass window. And the only tools I had were markers, like dry white markers and offcuts of plastic. I know you can buy transfers and, you know, 3D printed 3D windows and things, but to be honest, I didn't really have the spare money. It was coming up to Christmas, and also I really did want to try and do this just with scraps. The whole point of it was to try and turn scraps into winning a prize. That was one of the motivations. So, armed with a couple of reference images and a black dry white marker, I set about designing what I thought would pass as a stained glass window. I only had a very few limited number of pens, so I did what I could and then had to accept that that was as good as it's likely to get. Now, the next thing a church needs is a honking great big roof. So, how do we build that? Again, let's try scraps. So my first attempt was to build this apex frame out of sprues, and I tried that, and it really just didn't go well. Then I tried more foam core, and that idea kind of looked better, but wasn't perfect. In fact, it was far from perfect. So I tried a third idea, which was to cut triangles out of foam core and start building the structure of the roof like that. On this third attempt, it seems to be a lot better, although the actual panels where the tiles will go are far too small, so I have to redo the side panels, and I also want to build in some battle damage, so I needed to destroy one of the trusses themselves. How do I do that? If you answered with machete, then you are absolutely right. I hacked it to bits, and then I decided that I was going to put tiles on. So that's what came next. To get the tiles, I cut up old loyalty cards from the British Red Cross. Thank you, British Red Cross. And then started laying them out. Top tip, start from the bottom and work your way up. You can see from the glue dots that I learned that the hard way. Before long, I had a tiled roof. It wasn't exactly how I pictured it in my mind, but you know what? It worked, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, let's go. So I wanted it to be a sort of red roof, so I painted it sort of terracotta colour, and then I highlighted them, and then after that, I put a wash on, and after that, I put some moss on, just like, it'd been there for a while. One of the drawbacks was that the weight of the roof meant that I had to go back and seriously over engineer the back of the foam core, because it was just foam core, to take the extra weight of the roof. I was happy that it would take the weight of the roof. I attached it with 3 big long nails that were hidden in the joists themselves. And lo and behold, it was actually starting to take shape. So the next thing I wanted to do was add some crazy little details. So it just so happened that we had a family birthday, and there was a bottle of fizzy wine, and I took the cage for the champagne cork. It wasn't champagne, but we took the cork cage off that, and I put some birthday candles that I had left over in a drawer and made a chandelier. So broken glass needed to be fallen from the window, so I made lots more broken glass pieces just by the same method as before, and a broken joist and a candle that had fallen out of the chandelier, and we're pretty much there. And although I put a nameplate on the front just to give it a title, I think it was The Last Stand of the Faithful, was the name I put on there. I submitted it and I waited. And I'm delighted to say that after a couple of weeks, I got notification that I came third. And well done to everyone who entered the competition. That was my prize. I got a Space Marine, Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer, and I've been taking a break over Christmas, but I'm back and I finished painting them today. And I thought, do you know what? It was a great experience and one that I absolutely could not recommend enough. I had a total blast doing it. The fact that I had just made things out of scrap, the fact that I had the let's try it and see what happens attitude, couldn't recommend it enough for a positive hobby experience. So just want to say thanks very much for sharing this journey. Happy 50th birthday to my brother Ewan. You don't look a day over 30. And cheers. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.